Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for this episode. Joining me is Erica, known on Twitter/X as Abundantly Erica. Erica, please go ahead and give yourself a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, I'm Erica Joan. I am a stock options trader, and I also run a website and mentorship program where I teach other people how to options trade and become profitable on the stock market with both long-term holds, options trading, and just building wealth in general.
Awesome. So, right off the bat, perfect because
And
I
this is
know so little about options trading. I've had Leah the Trader on here as a guest. I've had options trader Chris,
okay.
covered calls Barbie, and a few others that um, have taught me a lot of like the terminology and how it works and what you kind of need to get started. But I'm still very lost in the entire options trading sphere of the investing world.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe let's just start at the beginning. How do you start in options trading?
Well, it helps to start with some money. I will say that that's true. So it's pretty hard to get started if you don't have any capital to begin with. And it's sort of like the more that you have, the more options you have to options trade, I would say.
Right.
But I know people that start with $2,000 and go into it from there. And I know people who are just starting to learn that have really large portfolios. But generally speaking, I think it just starts with like a interest in wanting to make a side hustle income or make more of the money that you do have, and just being very curious and open about how to do that. So I
Right.
do think it takes like a certain kind of person. I've noticed that the people that I mentor seem to be a certain type. Like they have like an entrepreneurial side to them. Generally speaking, maybe they own their own business, maybe they want time freedom. There seems to be like a certain pattern of these people being a little bit more confident in themselves, I might say. That seems to
Yeah.
be a trend I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, I think in whatever avenue you take in investing, I think the end goal is the time freedom, right?
Right. For me, it
For
is.
like, it's got to
Yeah.
be 99.9% of people you're investing to have that time freedom at the end of the day.
Yeah, at some point or another, I think that's everyone's goal. Like usually when I start talking to a new options trader that I'm going to be mentoring, that always comes up. Like I'm like, why do you want the money? I always want to know why they want the money. They have the most interesting stories. I mean, I have people that want to just help their mother like move into an assisted care facility. I have people that want to pay for childcare. I have people who want to move back to their home country. I mean, I have so many different people that are
People
interested
that just want to be able to afford groceries.
Exactly. I mean, it just runs the gamut, but it always amazes me what people want the money for. But at the end of the day, then they're like, then I just want to be able to, like, eventually I want to live off of this income and have this be what I do. And I think a lot of them know they can't do that maybe tomorrow with the portfolio size that they have, but they see the potential there. And that makes me
Right.
excited because that's kind of how I started. I started being like, I want to make $1,000 a month because honestly, my husband wanted a BMW. I'll be honest. And I was like, okay, how are we going to afford this car payment? Because we do need a new car. um, and then it kind of got to the point where I was making that. And then I was like, okay, now I want $5,000 a month. And then I was like, well, maybe I can live off of this. And then here I am a few years later. So
Right.
it has the potential to grow really quickly.
Yeah, that is one of the amazing parts, obviously, of options trading.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to start by telling you what I do know. What I do
Okay.
know is that you need I believe it's called a lot, which is 100 shares of any individual company. So right off the bat, if you're buying 100 shares of say Apple or Tesla, that's a lot of money. As you mentioned up front, that's a lot of capital to get started. Now, you could have 100 shares of another company, like you said, somebody that you've mentored started with just $2,000.
Yeah.
So, but there's obviously a big difference there between 100 shares at what is that, $20 a share or something
Yeah.
um, to compare to Tesla and Apple at $200 a share or whatever they're trading at.
Hmm.
They're in that ballpark, right?
Yeah.
which is obviously a whole lot more capital to start with.
It is a lot more. It is a lot more. And I mean, I guess what I would say about that is the reason why even though like some people consider options trading to be quite risky, I don't, because I'm very comfortable with what I do and I know the risks before I go into it because I spent my time studying it and learning it and I hired mentors to teach me and stuff and I learned it inside out and backwards, and that's the way that I like to mentor other people so that they know the risks. I do know from trading less expensive stocks, there's just more risk involved in that, and
Right.
your portfolio goes up and down and you can feel like you're winning forever. But when you are on a downward trend with that stock, you get stuck for a lot longer than with more expensive stocks. That is because, like, it's just like anything else. Like, stuff that is more valuable costs more. And so the more valuable companies cost more. And the institutions that buy huge amounts of shares, they're more interested in being involved in those like great companies that cost more than the cheaper companies. So part of my strategy is always to buy the best companies that I can possibly afford. So I am somebody who's buying more expensive stocks. I now have the income and the capital where I can do that, but it's tough getting started lower because it can be a tougher road. So I tend to say to people, I would prefer you started with $20,000. And if you don't have $20,000 to get started, potentially, like, focus more on building your portfolio until you get there and then get into options. It's just going to be
Right.
less risky to do it at that point in time. That might not be a popular answer. I do know other traders that kind of like mentors that specialize in the smaller account, building smaller accounts. That's not really what I do, but there is a way to build from there. I just think it's tougher. It's like you have to work harder at it. That's how I would put it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess take me through beyond getting started, and
Yeah.
then sort of what is the next step? And I think I want to also ask you,
Mhm.
would if somebody built up their portfolio to $20,000, would you say, okay, now start with everything, or should you build it up to 30 or $40,000 and then maybe start with that initial 20, right? Like, so you have a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but so like, I mean, there's a lot of stocks right now that I really love to options trade that you can get for $16,000. So like, I mean, I love to options trade with Amazon. I think is that 152 today, I think. I love to trade with AMD, a little bit more of a risky stock, but it's very profitable. Google, another great one to options trade with. So like, I would, if I had $20,000, I'd probably start by doing covered calls on one of those three companies. And then I would keep a certain amount of cash there on the side, because if that stock is going to rise over time, I still want to be able to sell out of that stock and then get back in, buy shares for more.
Right.
I am a little bit not like the rest of the options traders out there that you tend to see on FinTwit, because I don't start with puts, I start with calls. The reason I start with calls, covered calls, is because I like to capture the premium that we get from options trading. That's the initial amount that we're paid. And I like to be called away on my shares. I like to see them go out, go away, go bye-bye to be sold to somebody else. And I like to collect cap gains on that too.
Yeah.
Um,
Show me the money.
yeah, show me more money. And like if it's a dividend stock, like an Apple, then I might get a dividend in there too. So I found that to be much more profitable for me than doing like cash secured puts. I don't start with puts. So that's a little bit rare, but I mean, I really do think that I have the data to prove that works really well. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's how I would get started with $20,000, to be honest with you. I'd do a strategy like that. And I always start mentoring people with, you have to make excellent stock picks first, or options trading the way that I do it won't work. So you have to start there. You have to learn how to make great stock picks. And I have like I have a channel, like a checklist. Like you have to get, the stock has to pass 4 metrics for me to even consider buying it. And then after
Right.
that, I do covered calls. That's how you have to like get out the gate with me. And then once we do that, we add on more trades that I would teach you over time to really increase what you know and increase your odds of success, or the percentage basis that you can make, the percentage you can make in a month type thing.
So you've just thrown out a whole bunch of terms there,
I'm
and for
sorry.
anybody who is listening or no, that no, no, thank you for doing it, because I just want to for anybody who is listening or watching that may be new to even just investing or wanting to get into
Yeah,
options trading, can you maybe just explain some of those terms? Like you mentioned covered calls,
yeah,
puts, which I believe you mean like
cash secured puts,
um, cash secured puts.
yeah.
And then is there also like what's the opposite of puts? Sells?
Yeah, that would be a call. Selling a call,
Yeah,
covered call.
or a cash secured call or something.
Yes.
Again, I'm still learning so much myself. So like everything that you're saying right now, I'm trying to. And again, going back to the conversations I've had with Leah and Chris and Courtney, trying to like absorb the information from you people because you have the knowledge and simply I don't, right? And like it's like
Yeah, no, let's
I'm not
do
afraid to
it.
admit it. I just don't
Let's
have the knowledge in this area of investing. So everything I hear, I'm trying to absorb it in and be the sponge, right?
Yeah, I wrote this down. Okay, so covered call, cash secured puts, and then okay, so we'll just start with options trading. So options trading is the method of trading on the stock market where you are involved in the buying and selling of contracts of for stock. So usually it can sometimes include index funds as well, but let's just stick with stock for the concept of it. And
Yep.
usually it
Sure. Okay.
involves the idea that you have to own 100 shares of that specific stock that you're going to options trade on, or you have to be willing to buy it while you're under the contract that you signed up for. And you sign up for these contracts just on your brokerage firm. Like you turn on the option for options trading in your account, and then you can start to do covered calls. Usually on any brokerage account, you can do covered calls. But if you want to get more advanced, you might have to get permission from your broker. So you can't just like walk into it all willy nilly one day. Like they want to know that you know what you're doing. But so options
Right.
trading is basically a form of stock trading where sometimes you own the stock, sometimes you don't, but you're always willing to own it and 100 shares of it usually. Okay? That's for most options trading. There are some
Okay.
exceptions. A covered call is I have 100 shares of Apple or I'm going to buy them right now. And then I'm selling someone else the right to buy those shares from me for a specific price at a specific date and time. That date and time expires on a Friday. And the idea would probably be if I bought Apple at 190, I want to sell a covered call for the price to be sold away from me at 192. Okay, so I'm selling the stock, I'm agreeing to sell the stock for more than I bought it for. And for the right for that person to have that right to buy it from me, they're going to pay me like $250, something like that. So I'm going to take in $250 right now. It's called premium. I get paid a premium, and that's what options trader wants. They want the premium. um,
Yeah.
and
I
then,
want $250.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It comes in your account like as soon as you send that options trade out, it's instant. It's just like boom. It's in your account immediately. I'm sorry, my dog is complaining right now.
That's fine.
Caress. No. So that's kind of how a cover call works. And so like on the expiration date, you get to choose the date, and the date has a premium price attached to it. One of two things can happen. Either the stock is worth that 192 or it's not. If it's worth the 192, that stock will leave your account and you'll be reimbursed $192 a share or $19,200. And you have cash on your account on Monday morning and you can do whatever you want with it. If the stock isn't 192, the stock stays in your account and you could do another options trade on Monday morning. Does that
So
explain
you're
it
not
I hope
well, it
so.
sounds like you're not losing. That sounds fairly correct me if I'm wrong. Is it kind of low risk? Like right off the top, you're getting 250 bucks. Kind of thank you very much. I'll just take that money and put it in my pocket. And then okay, I buy it at 190
Mhm.
and then I sell it at 192, so I'm making $2 a share
Yep.
or I don't. and and if they leave and go bye-bye, I make that $2 a share. And if they don't, I still have them sitting there in my account.
Correct. It's amazing. Like I love it. Yes.
Why am I not doing this?
I don't know why
Like,
you're not.
I need to retire my mom.
I
My
don't know
mom's
why
70
anyone
some
else
years
is,
old,
I don't know why
drives a school
everyone's
bus
not doing it.
part-time.
Yeah. I don't know why everyone's not doing it. I think it's because they don't know they can. So that was really, for me, when I learned how to do this, I was like, why isn't everyone doing this? And I run around to my friends telling them, you guys gotta do this. And they are all just like, options trading, that sounds difficult. Like the name sounds difficult
Yeah, it
to
sounds
people. It
risky.
sounds complex. Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like like very difficult. And I think there's like an options trading book for dummies that I got, and it's like this thick. And you like if you look at this book, you're like, okay, this is too much, right? But
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
if you just do covered calls for the rest of your life, the profit making machine you could become is insane. And I did for my first 2 years of trading, all I did was covered calls. And then I started to realize, wait a second, if I learned some other stuff, maybe I could become way better at this. And that's really when I rocketed off as far as like how much income I was making. So I'm glad I made that call. But yeah, the covered call is amazing. There are people who think a covered call is risky. And the reason they tend to think it's risky is twofold. The first one is if I agreed to sell Apple for 192 and it shoots to 100, am I mad? You know, because it got bought away from me at 192. For me, I'm never mad because I'm like, that's what I signed up for. I knew that could
You mean
happen.
if it shoots to 200?
Yeah, if it shoots to 200, sorry. If it shoots to
Yeah,
200, then I gave up like what, $800,
$8 a share, but you're
$8
still
a
pocketing
share.
$2 a share. So
Right. But I got paid 450 in our example.
yeah,
So what did I lose out on? 450 or like 350 or something in that
yeah,
example. But those rockets aren't always guaranteed. But I think, if somebody sees a stock take off $20 a share, they might be really annoyed. I'm not annoyed because I have so many different trades going on. I'm just like, sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Like, I don't really care. I signed up for the money I was getting that day. The other risk could be if the stock sinks down to 180 and you wanted to sell out of it. First, you have to sell out of your contract, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. But some people feel like they're locked in. I don't know why, because they're not. And then they have to sell out of the stock. But as far as like if you are an Apple shareholder and you want to hold Apple forever, if it comes in and out of your account all the time, I would argue that doing covered calls on a stock that you want to hold long term is less risky than not doing it because you're lowering your cost basis all the time and you're collecting income
right.
all the time. And the stock doesn't always shoot off. And honest to God, like when a stock shoots off, doesn't it oftentimes fall? Like, can't I just wait and see if I can get it for less later? I do this on repeat all the time. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, stocks go up, stocks go down.
yep, you
That's the way the
do.
stock market works, right? Like,
Yeah.
sure, over time you want to see them going up and to the right, but on the day to day or the week to week or even month by month, Apple's gonna go up to 200, down to 190, down up to 220. Like that's the range they're in right now, I think, somewhere in that
Yeah,
ballpark,
they
right?
trade in a range. You're saying exactly what I always say. This stock is trading in a range. So why wouldn't I trade in that range? It doesn't take
Right.
long to figure it out. And typically, when I work with people, I have them become an expert in 2 to 3 stocks so that they are only trading 2 to 3 stocks. So they know those stocks like the back of their hand and they kind of know what they're going to do for the most part, like 80% of the time. So I feel like that's the way to start because then you don't necessarily get FOMO looking to the left and right at you at every stock on the market. And that's way too much information. And that's
Yeah.
not really the way to be profitable, in my opinion. With like a low time strategy like mine. Like I'm not a day trader. There are options traders who mix day trading and chart reading into their program. I am not like that. I'm like the minimal time, high profit person. I only trade 4 hours a week. So I don't want to spend all day in front of a computer. Like I'd rather talk to you than trade, to be honest. So
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And actually, that's a great segue into sort of what I wanted to bring up next is the amount of time that you spend and how do people do it? Like someone like myself, who like the stock market is open Monday to Friday from 9:30 to 4, and I'm at work at,
okay.
from
Yeah.
8 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. So like
Mhm.
I'm at work while the stock market is open Monday to Friday.
Yeah, I think
How do you sneak that in there? Like,
you have to probably figure out how to get away for half an hour here or there for sure. Like,
Yeah, your breaks go. Yeah, you've got a 15-minute break morning and afternoon, half-hour lunch break. Just figure out a way to get on your phone and click some buttons. Is that the idea?
yeah, most of the people that I end up working with, they are self-employed, they own their own business. They're like maybe working sort of part-time. Some of them are semi-retired.
Right.
Um, a lot of them work from home.
Yeah, that
A lot of them work from home and they don't have like a
work from
boss.
home means I'm taking the dog out for a
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah. And a lot of them are 40 plus and they're just like, you know what? They have like a lot of them are salespeople. Salespeople are very into this and they don't like if they meet their sales quota at their job, they're just like nobody can talk, like nobody's gonna complain about me if I do an hour of trading every day. Like they're
Yeah,
they're kind of like settled in their lives where they can call a little bit of their schedule. You will
yep,
have to be able to call a little bit of your schedule to do this kind of trading for sure. But like I said, I'm making a good hunk of change every week or month, but I trade like a maximum of 4 hours a week. So, and that's probably because I know my stuff, right? But I think that you can really know your stuff after 3 years of trade of like studying like something like this. I
yeah, for
do.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing what you've done is kind of honed in your skills after a few years of, like, I'm sure at the first you were probably, like, hard into it and spending, I don't know, like, hundreds of hours, not maybe
Yeah.
not a week, but hundreds of hours a month learning, and you've gotten to the point now where it's like, "Oh, I can kinda do this in 2 to 4 hours every week and just make a killing."
Well, I think for me, like, okay, so the pandemic hit, right? And when it hit, gonna sound terrible. I was actually like, oh my God, now I can have a break.
Yeah,
Now no one's gonna call me. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I was running this company. My other company, like, I don't know, people they're not like excited to be there. They're sort of like everyone's like, they're real like kind of I don't know, it's tough. It's like I negotiated for a living. So everyone was always trying to like get their piece out of the deal.
yep,
And it was sort of stressful and I was burnt out and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, now I get to rest." And I realized how like overtaxed and overstressed I was and how I was giving just so much of my time to this thing that wasn't giving me energy back in the way that I wanted. So when it started to pick up with work again, I actually got a client that was very lucrative and I did very well with that client. And I just took every penny that I made that client and saved it because I was like, I gotta figure out a different way to live my life. Like I have to, like, even if it's just hiring an assistant to deal with all the stuff at my work that I don't want to do anymore because I'm too stressed to do it, I gotta figure something else out. Then, like out of the blue, like I sort of like really just leaned more into options trading and became obsessed with it because I did have more time and that kind of thing. And I took so many courses. I was just fascinated with it. And I started to realize that like I wanted to not work as much. So I was like, what do I want to do in my 50s? Like
you were
I
trading
realized
your time for money and realized you wanted your money for time, basically.
yeah, and I was like, what do I want to do? I would always talked about I wanted to live in France part-time. And I'm like, well, okay, I have to do this in my 50s, which is only like 6 years away. So like if I'm gonna do that, I
No,
better figure it
there is absolutely
out.
no way that you are 44 years old.
I'm 45.
No.
46 in a month.
Nobody watching this believes that, not a chance.
No, I totally am. I'm 40. I'll be 46 soon. Um, yeah, so I was just like, when am I, if you only live once, okay? Like everyone's like, you only
Yeah,
live once.
YOLO.
So okay, so you only live one. So then I was like, okay, so I need to design like I was like, I wonder if I could figure out a way to like trade options like to the point where it would only take me a few hours a week so I could go off and live in France and like not work when I'm there, but just have fun.
Right.
And so like I took so many courses and I did so many different ways of learning and experimenting with myself and it basically came up with 8 trades that take hardly any time but are highly profitable and I never break from that system because that is in line with my values for what I want later.
Yeah,
And so that's how I kind of came up with it. And I was like, I can't stare at a screen all day because I would hate that. So let's just see how much money I could make doing that. And then how big does my portfolio need to get so that that system would support me? That was always my goal. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does.
So that's
Totally.
kind of how I wound up here.
I do want to
And then
circle
there's like,
back to options
yeah, go ahead.
trading, and I'm going to bring up your website here in a minute, but I want to ask you sort
Sure.
of on the opposite side of the spectrum, or what I'm more familiar with, the dividends and long-term investing. Do you kind of have
Yeah.
a portfolio or a portion of your portfolio where just here's some stocks that are just sitting over here and they're going to sit there forever, and I'm going to just either collect the dividend on them every month, every quarter when it rolls in, and kind of hope for capital appreciation on the share price. And do you have sort of that set up as well on that side of your, or on a separate side of of your portfolio?
Yeah, your need, like, it's funny because our needs really change over time, or what we want changes over time. And I'm really open to, like, when I feel like I need something else, to building that out. So I have a main brokerage account that I trade very aggressively. I have a retirement account that I trade some options on, but I really am focused on the growth. Like, I want the stocks to just grow over time.
Right.
Um, and most of the stocks in there have a dividend, like a Microsoft, like that kind of dividend. And my husband loves dividends. So he, in his 401k, mainly buys a lot of dividend stocks. So he likes that idea. And he actually options trades an account for himself where he buys the, like, JEP whatevers for that. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, Dave. JEPI, JEPQ. I mean, some people love one and hate the other. I'm not sure which one, but he's kind of in charge of that. And he's getting to the point where he's like, he just wants the account to pay for our mortgage every month.
Yeah, that's great. So actually sounds like between the two of you, you're attacking the market, or attacking your investing strategy, so you're getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I mean, he really loves that idea of really doing nothing to get money. So I'm happy that he's interested in that part. And I think that, like, together as a couple, it balances out, like, you know what I'm trying to say. And it gives us more of a balance. Like, if I'm not doing well in options for some reason, like, his dividend portfolio will still be there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. He became interested in it because I became interested in options. He's like, but I really like these dividends. I'm like, go for it, hon. Like, cool. So
Yeah, no, good. Like, I mean, as my name suggests, I love dividends. I love getting paid by companies that I don't work for. That's sort of my one of my
yeah,
sayings,
I
right?
know.
Is like, you're gonna pay me to
Mhm.
not work for you? Perfect, right?
It's a miracle. It's literally a
Yeah,
miracle that
yeah.
this exists. Mhm.
Okay, I do want to bring up your website here, and
Sure.
we should have it here. Oh, I just gotta click the share screen button. There we go. Become a stock options trader with millionaire mentorship. So I'm just gonna
Mhm.
let's just go right through this.
Mhm.
So basically, a get started button here. Several testimonials from people that you have helped. Very impressive to
Yep.
read, actually. By the way, I've just read them recently. What can options
Cool.
trading offer me? Which we've kind of already covered. Um,
Yeah.
Options trading allows you to create an additional income stream on your nest egg. Cash is
Mhm.
paid to your account with many options trades. There's you. Hi, I'm Erica. After 24
Yeah.
years of small business owning and advertising and production, um, millionaire
Yeah.
mentorship members get courses, how-to guides, step-by-step instruction, analysis, one-on-one private meetings, recorded community
Mhm.
Q&A, weekly videos, stock analysis, trading strategies, examples, trade tracking worksheets, and of course, you can
Yep.
click there for more about the story. This is what I actually wanted to go through. You have, I think it's 6 modules here.
Yeah, now there's 8. I gotta update the
Oh,
website, but yeah.
okay. So let's just go
Yeah.
through them one by
Reminded
one.
me
And
of
first,
Mhm.
module 1, financial freedom through investing.
Yep. This is where you're gonna be able to identify what the top performing stocks are in the last 5 years, 1 year, 3 year. That's what I said previously. Like, I only invest in those stocks. I only trade with those stocks. So it's kind of just like a foolproof system to identify what they are.
Right.
And it also tells you ways to identify when they're not doing as well and when you might need to leave that stock, which is really important if you want to preserve your capital, which we all do. So that's that module, unless you have any questions about that one.
Module 2, covered calls, which we kind of
Yeah.
obviously already talked about quite a bit. I love
Hmm.
this. Get paid to hold stock and make 1 to 5% returns
Yeah.
per month.
Yep. That's literally what I do. Yeah. It's great. It's really great. I mean, I would say the average for most people is probably like 3.5 or something like that. But there's months where you just get those cap gains that really knock it out of the park and you can get it into the 5%
Yeah,
range.
wow.
So that's really fun. 1% is very conservative. There's people who are going to say there's no way she can do that. And the reason why they say that is because they sell covered calls on a certain delta, which is like another stock options trading jargon. But I always just say that's not true. You can sell on a different delta and you can do it. I have a little bit of different ideas than a lot of the options traders out there, which I didn't discover until I came to X and then people were arguing with me. They're like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, this is how we do it. And they'd go like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, there's never been, like, I think it was, what, 2005 or 6 when and Twitter got invented, and just Twitter fights ever since have been one of the best things on the
Yeah, I
internet.
know. Pretty sassy though if they came to complain. So I'll sass them back. I'll
Module
engage with.
3, rollouts. Bring options in and out in time and price to milk additional profits out of your trades.
Yeah. So like when you're in those contracts, you can change the contract slightly as it's expiring to just get more profits here and there. I mean, like sometimes I'll just adjust a trade to make another $20, but $20 compounded over 20 years is a lot of money. Sometimes I'll roll things in and out to make several $100s. Like there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm often surprised how many people don't know about rollouts or don't really know how to manage them to do really well. So that's like, if you already know how to do covered calls, you should definitely learn some rollout strategies for sure, I think.
Yeah, and again, what you just said too, $20, $100, it adds up, right?
It does add up. Yeah. I'll go in on Fridays and I'll just like, I'm going to just get another few $100s right now on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do. And then vertical spreads, module 4. So this is interesting because this is when you start to really become more of an options trading thinker with advanced options trades. And I get really excited when I'm mentoring this because you start to see you kind of think two different directions at once, and like lights go off in people's heads when they learn this. It's difficult to explain. I don't think I can explain it here because it's somewhat complex,
Yeah.
but once you get it, it's so simple. It's like it took me probably reviewing this information for a couple weeks to really get it, but once I got it, you get it forever and you can use it forever. So that's really cool. Module 5 is leaps. Leaps are basically usually you would buy a leap, and a leap is a contract that you're buying from another trader that is more than a year away in time that it expires. So it's a very long-term contract. You can buy or sell them. And there are specific metrics for what make them a safer play, and there's specific metrics that make them very risky. So I like to guide people on those so they don't mess them up. I will say it that way. So they become highly profitable is where I want people to be with them, obviously.
I just want to
Um,
make a point back here on module 4 where it says print money without buying any stock at all most of the time.
mhm.
There's a
Yeah, most of
strategy
the
for
time.
bear and bull market. So obviously
Mhm.
there's something in there where it's like, what? I don't even have to buy a stock? What?
Yeah,
How does
you
this
might not
work?
have to buy it. Yeah, like 80% of the time on bear call spreads, I don't ever have to buy the stock. I just take $100, usually $150 from the market free. No strings attached, really.
Wow.
I
Okay.
know it sounds crazy.
It
It sounds crazy. I have to be prepared to buy it. That's not very different than a cash secured put, which we didn't go over here and which is not highlighted on my modules because I actually don't concentrate on that very much. But earlier we were discussing what a covered call is. A cash secured put is you're selling somebody else the right to give you their shares at a specified price. And that is also a strategy where you may not ever have to own the stock. So in options, you don't always have to own 100 shares. Sometimes you cannot own it. It's just you have to be prepared to take it on. If that makes
Yes,
sense.
it does.
Okay.
Okay. And then new modules added regularly, except not regularly enough because you're too behind. So, but we'll
Ah,
give you a
I need to
pass on that one.
well, I need to post them online that they're there. But yeah, they're there. So there's 8 now.
And I love this too, the checklist at the bottom, who the millionaire mentorship program is for. And this program
Yeah.
is for you. Here you have 50K. We were talking about even starting with 20K or possibly even less.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
and this is a great checklist because over here, all these X's, um, people who think they can become great options traders in less than 3 to 6 months, X. Um,
Hmm.
people who like to gamble, X. There was one too. Oh, this one is it? This one, those who want to get rich scheme and think it's possible to make a 3,000% return overnight and think they don't have to learn their craft, X. Right,
Yeah.
like basically a lot of red flags over here on this side, and then yeah, so
Mhm.
just a whole bunch of checks over here if you actually do want to get into options trading. Book a meeting with Erica here. Of course, this link will be in the description below for anyone who wants to contact and get in touch with Erica.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for taking us through that. You've made me realize I have to do some updates as well, which is great.
Honestly, you're not the only one. Honestly, it's almost everyone that I have as a guest, and I go through whether it's their link tree or their website, and they're like, "Oh, that needs to be updated. Oh, that needs to be updated." So don't feel bad.
I actually don't feel bad. I feel great about it, but it's funny that it's happening. Oh, I'm making notes right now.
And then here we are on. Are we calling it Twitter or X?
I still call it Twitter. Until that URL changes to X, Elon's not going to get me to call it anything else than
Good
Twitter.
point. Up here, it still says twitter.com. You can find Erica on Twitter at Women Options Win.
Hmm.
Great handle. Continuing here on to celebrate female investors here on the Passive Income Podcast. So I
Yeah,
definitely,
there's not enough of us.
pardon me.
There's not enough of us. I was really hoping when I came to X that I would be working with a lot more women, and my clients are predominantly male. So it's like
Right.
you can take what you can get, but it's just I wish more women were into it because women are really moving up as being like primary breadwinners and making more salary than men, and it's kind of interesting to me that they're not as interested in investing and growing their money. Men seem to be far more interested in that as like a pastime, or it's something they're thinking about. And I'm just it's weird that women aren't. Like I want to get them thinking about that. So if there's women out there, please tell your friends. You got to do something with the money that you have to grow it.
Yes. So yes and
Hmm.
no. I do agree with you. You know, as the whole of
Maybe
the
they're not on
population.
X.
The whole of the
Yeah.
population, but yeah, I've met so many great, female investors in the Twitter community, and I've had so many of them here on the Passive Income Podcast. Just last weekend, we had a live stream with female investors, and actually next weekend we're doing another live stream with female investors.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's definitely just sort of well, part of it is because we surround ourselves with like-minded people, so that's why on Twitter X we see there's tons of female investors, but I definitely get what you're saying in the overall sense of the entire population, there really isn't percentage wise, right?
Yeah, just in the amount of people that reach out to me to become, clients or whatever, want to learn it. It's just there's not a high percentage of women. So that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. But maybe there's just not as many women on X, for example. Like I've tried to make more of an I've realized that maybe I need to be more on Instagram if I want to reach out to women potentially, because maybe they're there a little bit more.
Right.
But I'm like, do I want to build a whole different thing? Because I've got a lot going on right now anyway on X. So we'll see if that's in the future or not. Who knows?
Yeah. I find Instagram really hard. Like you follow 200 people and you don't ever see their post. You just see the post that they want to feed you of
Yeah,
whatever
that
else.
algorithm.
And you're like, so if how do you grow a following if nobody is seeing each other's posts where and I mean Twitter isn't perfect either, but
Well, and if you want to hashtag stuff, people look stuff up through. They don't even have a spell checker on the hashtag, so you can just enter stuff like on TikTok. It's like, come on, fix that, please.
Okay, what else do I need to know about options trading? And I know we've only kind of scratched the surface, but let's say tomorrow I wanted to start options trading. What do I need to know right off the hop, or
Hmm,
what more do I need to know?
that's a good question. I don't know. I think you need to know that I didn't go out buying calls. Like there's a lot of people that just go like, "Oh, I'm going to buy a call." And I'm just like, "What? No, that is like kind of throwing your money away. Please don't do that. Please start with something like a covered call or a cash secured put on a stock that you want to own. You should always be only trading stocks that you want to own for the long term. And like when I say long term, if you're like, "Yeah, I want to," I don't even like I wouldn't mind owning Chewy forever. Okay, would maybe you wouldn't, but is there a stock that you'd like to own even more? Because you should be aiming for that one. If you believe in Apple, and then it should be Apple. If you believe in Amazon, it should be Amazon. Don't like start trading a stock that you're sort of like okay with, but you're not a big fan of and you don't think is going to do amazing just
Right.
because you want to start options trading. I wouldn't do that myself because I just feel like that wouldn't get me too far and I'd probably be stuck in a little bit of a trap for a while trying to catch up when stocks go up and down. So that's probably where I would start. But everyone has like their own journey. There are a million different ways to trade options, and mine is just one way. But there are a million other ways too, and there's a
Mhm.
million other accounts out there that I think are really great too that trade in a different way. So you kind of have to find a style that works for you. There are some people who want to be chartists. I don't. Like there's different things. It's sort of like options trading is such a huge thing. It's such a huge subject. I've tried to make it very small for myself by knowing a lot and condensing it. So I would just try to find somebody to maybe learn from that you align with them and
Right.
you have similar goals to them because they'll be able to put you in the right path. I do think having a coach or like being a part of some kind of group is really helpful for this because it's a lot of information to digest otherwise.
Yeah,
Really
for sure.
subject.
Yeah, a coach or a mentor like Erica. The link will be in the description below. You
But only
definitely
if you want to spend
contact her.
no time at all options trading. That's my sales pitch.
Now, we've also both said, and you've said it several times, covered call.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The opposite of a covered call is a naked call. Is that correct?
Not really. Well,
Not
covered
really.
calls
Okay.
are relatively safe. Naked calls are incredibly risky. I wouldn't do anything naked. I wouldn't. Yeah, you don't want to be naked ever. Like if there's so many people who lose their shirts doing naked trades. It's just I wouldn't even do it. I'm very experienced. I would never touch that just because I'm like, why would I do that? I don't need to take those kind of risks.
Right.
So no, I would almost say that the opposite of covered call is probably cash secured put as far as the a stock itself. Like you're either trading up or down with the stock price, right? Like you're
Okay.
making a bet going up or it's going down. It's more complicated than that because I can bet that the stock is a lot of people do covered calls when they think the stock is going to go down. I'm not like that. I hope it goes up. So it just depends what your intentions are, what your goal is, really.
Right.
I would say that covered call is maybe the opposite of a put. That's kind of cash secured put.
Okay.
Sort of what I would say.
You didn't even realize you said it, but you were like, lose your shirt on a naked call. It's like-
Yeah. You do. You lose your shirt on a naked call.
so explain the risk there because basically, as soon as I mentioned it, you were like, oh, that's so risky. I would never do that. So why is it so risky? What is it?
Because you don't, oh man. Okay, so there's times when this happened to me this week. I was a little bit naked this week. Okay, so there are times when
In the
you don't
cold of Chicago, and you don't want to be naked in this time of year.
Okay, so like if a stock that I don't if I'm selling somebody the right, I'm selling a call to somebody, I'm selling somebody the right to buy those shares for me at a certain price. Let's say I'm saying I'm selling somebody the right to buy 100 shares for me at $200 a piece. And then some fantastic news comes out about that stock at 5 p.m. that they just discovered
The
how to
cure for
clone a
cancer or
dinosaur.
whatever.
I don't know what they did. And then the stock price shoots up to $240 a share. I have to provide those shares at $240 a share. And I didn't own them. So I have a $4,000 loss. Or like, yeah. And I don't want to do that. Like, that's
No,
not worth it to me. So
no.
that's the problem with being naked, is that because you don't own anything, if the stock price takes off at some weird moment, or if you're in a put situation, it's the same thing. If the stock goes down all of a sudden, then you're taking an instant loss. And that happened this week on AMD. AMD took off. I had some positions where it wasn't completely naked, but I wasn't exactly covered. And yeah, it took off because of, I don't even know what the news was, some amazing news in the AI space. And the stock went up 8% in a day. And I was literally in coaching meetings all day and I wasn't really watching it that much. And I logged back in. I was like, what? AMD is at 158. I really need it to be at 153, but it's not. So,
Yeah.
even me, I'll get stuck a little bit often and it'll come and surprise me. So if it's going to surprise me, it's going to surprise everybody else. And we all come up against these things. Options traders, trading, it happens, but we want to really minimalize the amount of times that happens, for sure. And when you're starting, you want it never to happen because you don't have enough capital to really like sustain that kind of loss. So you don't want losses at all in the beginning. You play it really, really safe. When you get a big account, maybe you can play around a little bit. If you lose $10,000, but you made 40 that year, maybe it's that month, maybe it's no big deal.
Right.
I will never be in that position. I will not a good loser. I just won't try to. I just don't set myself up for that much risk.
Understandable. Awesome. Okay. I see we're already well over 45, pushing 50 minutes here. I just want to open up the floor
Amazing.
to you, sort of any other topic that you want to talk about that we haven't touched on yet.
I'm trying to think. I just wanted to talk a little bit about like that thing about how you were trying to build long-term wealth. So and get those dividend things going. So it's really interesting now that I have sort of like gotten my income level with options trading to a certain point. I was putting like every last bit of cash I had into options trading. It was really my goal to get my account to be big enough to make a certain income. Now I'm making that income. And so then we started first feeding our money into dividend stocks and long-term holds. That's one way to like really build your wealth. What's crazy now is that I've graduated to the point of I've realized that what I need on top of that is a cash account. So I'm going like the opposite direction and I'm building a cash account so that if anything really crazy happens on the market, I would always have a cash account to go back in and options trade on that because I'm making this my lifestyle and my livelihood, and I treat it now as a business. So it's just interesting how things change over time. And I think that like for me, that's the ultimate hedge, like to have cash now. So it's just kind of wild how I moved into this being like this person who wanted this huge brokerage account, got the huge brokerage account. Now I want cash. So there's like this circular thing that happens with investing and it never ends. But cash is the position. I just wanted to say
Yeah.
that. Cash is the position.
Well, the old saying, right? Cash is king.
Cash is king. So it's kind of interesting because as you continue to grow as an investor, like I think I saw one of your women that you had on last week. Sorry, I forget her name, but she was doing some trading, but then she branched out into real estate. And that's something that I've really seen people do too, is they'll options trade, get $50,000 in an account, and then they'll go buy a down payment on a real estate property and branch out. Options trading is just great because it gives you this like low maintenance way to make a living and grow an account to grow your wealth in other ways,
Right.
like buy other assets. That's one of the things that I really love about it. And it also can give you time freedom. So yeah, Anyway, cash is king, like you
I've
said.
had two women real estate investors on recently. Danielle Levy, real estate in Toronto, and then Dr. Farah Sutton in Arizona. So
It was Danielle. She was Toronto, I
it was
think.
Toronto.
Yeah.
So yeah, both
Yeah.
of those were incredible conversations as well. So if you haven't seen those episodes yet, be sure to check them out. Um, before we sign off, we're going
Mhm.
to get into a question that's totally not investing or money related. I know that you're in
Okay.
Chicago, so I have to ask you: Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears, Cubs, or White Sox? What's your favorite team?
Bears.
Bears, NFL. You're a football fan?
I actually don't watch sports at all, but, my dad is a big Bears fan, so that's what I'm gonna go with, and I grew up watching the Bears, and, like, we danced to the Super Bowl shuffle when I was, like, I don't know, 10 or something. Maybe I was 8, I don't remember. And we used to go to the Bears training camp that was next to my hometown in Dubuque, Iowa. So, we used to go and see, oh my god, Jim McMahon pull up in his Ferrari to training camp every day.
Wow.
That was fun. And
Okay,
Refrigerator
now I
Perry.
believe that you're in your 40s when you say Jim McMahon.
I really am. See, I can't pull this stuff out of a hat.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Erica, thank you so much for being here on this episode of the Passive Income Podcast. It has been absolutely incredible having this conversation with you.
You
I
too.
hopefully I've learned some more about options trading. I'm honestly still need to learn more about it, and the more I have conversations with people like you, I'm hopefully learning something somewhere along the way.
You ever want to do a Q&A with all the weird terms? I'll digest them for you. I do that
Yeah,
on the mentorship thing and try to bring it down all down to earth so people can get it. So let me know.
definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Thank you again for your time. If you're still watching here, well over 50 minutes later, please be sure to hit like and subscribe.
Okay.